Hi everybody and welcome to this week's YouTube video. I have been meaning to do this video for so long because it is so important to me. I am going to be talking about bridles. Now, I know we talk a lot about saddles being fitted and seeing a saddle fitter, but have you considered how your horse's bridle fits? So this is something that I've been learning a lot about over the last many years, and I want to talk about it. So I'm going to start by showing you some of the bridles that I like and why. So we work a lot, don't we, with saddles fitting around the horse. So the horse actually feels comfortable with that saddle because the saddle is fitted for them. Now, do you think the same thing should be happening with the bridle? I personally do, and I have spent a long time doing some research, speaking to people who really know a lot about this to find out more and know what I can be doing about it. I had Kenko. I wanted to know if I could do better with her bridle, and it turned out I could. Now, I was introduced at that time to a bridle called the Horsemanship Saddlery Bridle, and here it is here. This is Zora's bridle. So you'll see it's not your standard, it doesn't look totally normal. You can see the headpiece is very shaped and they have lots of different headpieces, and this is not an advert. I'm just talking about the shaping to bridles, and I've got more bridles to show you, so this isn't the only one I'm going to show. But you can see how the headpiece is very shaped. So this part, the ears sit here. So then, and I will show you this on a horse also, but it's really important that you have this shaping to the headpiece because a horse's head is not one shape. They all have very different shape, poles, different bones behind the ear, different widths, different narrownesses, different needs. And so you can't have one bridle that fits all. So this is Zora's bridle. I also ride Mo in it because it fits her really well. I was also riding Robin in it before he had his own bridle. One thing I want to talk about that is very important, the noseband and the cheek piece are the only thing on the side of the horse's face. Now, the horsemanship bridles, you can buy a throat lash that loops on here around the back. I don't have one on this bridle. I don't choose to have one. It's not actually a compulsory piece of tack. And I try and avoid flying off over the horse's head and taking the bridle with me, so I just avoid having one. So what you then have is a headpiece with no noseband that runs underneath it. So there's been lots of research done about this, and actually it has been proven that having a noseband, I don't even have a bridle to show you, that either runs underneath, so you know, you've seen it before, an old bridle, you'd then have the noseband that would run up through the underside of the brow band through here, underneath and all the way underneath. So then you have the pressure of the headpiece with then another piece sitting underneath. So then you have that thinner band of pressure. Now, I don't know if you've worn a hairband for too long or had anything tight on your head. Our heads are sensitive. Same with a horse. Their horses are incredibly sensitive. They have nerve endings all over their faces. And I will show you on Zora, when I go and put her bridle on in a moment, where those nerve endings are, why it's important, and what we can be doing to help. So this bridle does not have a noseband that runs underneath. The noseband attaches on the side, and that is all that then sits on the side of the horse's face. Now, there is another way of doing it, which is also very good, and is also a great bridle for pressure relieving. So yes, that is my favourite snaffle bridle, and the reasons why it is my favourite. You know, this bridle, I've put some different cheek pieces on that have little clips on, so as I said, because I sometimes ride more than one horse in it, I can just change the bit easily. They just literally unclip and clip on. And yeah, I've seen remarkable changes in horses when you change their bridles. So a lady called Selena, she has her own bitting and bridle fit consultancy business. So she comes out, she tries one of these bridles on, or a bridle that she thinks is suitable, lots of different bits, and you can trial it out. And something that I found the most interesting when I was riding Kenko was we took the noseband off completely. The noseband was one that was running underneath the headpiece, and the difference in the feeling was remarkable. I can't tell you how important this is. It's amazing the differences that you can make to a horse with something so simple as taking the noseband off. And even if you have a bridle like that, then have a go and try taking your noseband off and putting it over the top. That in itself actually isn't great. And I've got a bridle that is like that. So this is quite a common shape of a bridle, and you'll see the noseband is threaded through and attached over the top. And this actually has a similar effect in that you have pressure created by the noseband being pulled down over the poll, and it creates that downward pressure. This isn't a bridle that we're using, it's one of the bridles that one of my clients brought with them and said, oh, you can have this one to use if you need it, and I've never put it on because I don't believe that this is a good way of, you know, helping the horse feel at its best. And that's what we're here for, right? We're here to try and help our horses feel at their most comfortable, help them perform at their best level. And if they are wearing a bridle that is potentially hindering them, then I want to look to change that. So that's another type of bridle that we wouldn't really choose to be using. This is not so good with the noseband that goes over the top, but this is a step better than the noseband going underneath the headpiece. So this is another bridle that I really like. This is Robin's Bridle. Again, you can see the shaped headpiece. You can see that it's got space for his ears, and it's really nice, really soft, padded feeling, but not too thick. So this is also good for a horse with a narrow groove behind their ears. There is a gap for the bridle behind the ears. In front of it's like a bone shaped like this. There is a nice gap behind the ear there for the bridle to sit, and you have to look at each horse's shape of head and decide what shape bridle is going to work for them. So this is, like I said, this is Robin's Bridle. So this bridle does have a throat lash, and I really like the way that this bridle has been designed. So you can see here the throat lash leads out underneath the headpiece. Yes, this isn't an advert. This is just me telling you what I have learnt to like. This is a really great brand. This is a Dion bridle. They're not cheap. You know, you're looking at a couple of £100, but good things last. So this has got a cavesson noseband, and it's got this nice padded part on the back, which for a young horse like Robin is perfect. I am going to talk about bits, I promise. I just want to kind of cover a few things. Another thing that is so important is your brow band. Now, can you fit your hand under your brow band? I'm going to show you when I go to see Zora, because so often we have brow bands that are too small. And what that does is when the brow band is too small, it pulls the bridle forwards into that space behind the ears, too tight behind the ears. And then you put pressure on the ears and all sorts of problems start happening. It's remarkable how much you can solve with a well-fitted bridle. And actually, if you have a horse that's quite blocked or grinds their teeth or feels quite tense at the end of the rein, a good fitting bridle can do a huge amount. That and the right bit. Now, often we go to the bit as the only thing that we can change when it comes to the horse's head. No. The bridle is also very important. So that is Robin's Bridle. Now, I've got one more type of bridle to show you that I really like. This is Tillys Bridle. Hasn't been cleaned. We'll go with it. Actually, no, I've got two more types. Sorry. So this is then Tillys Bridle. So you can see now this has got a wider, thicker headpiece. It's still shaped, but it's still padded, still very soft. This is also a Dion bridle, but it's just got 3 straps here. So you've got your cheek piece, your noseband, and your throat lash. Noseband, cheek piece, throat lash. So they all sit next to each other. Now, Tilly has a bit of a bigger head, so he's got a bit more space behind the ears. So this is the bridle that we choose for him. Again, it's got a nice padded, soft noseband, nice, easy, simple. And you'll see that most horses I ride them in a snaffle as best we can. Sometimes for jumping we have something slightly stronger, but I will get onto that. But that is another type of bridle where you're not having the noseband running underneath or over the top. You're not having too much pressure, and you'll see again all of the buckles are lining up. This is important. There are reasons why. I'm not just saying this. Learning today is what we're doing on YouTube. Right. So that is Tilly's Bridle. So one other bridle that I've got to show you. This is Obi's, and you'll have seen me riding in this a lot. Now, look how thin those bits are between the ear and the bone behind. Obi doesn't have a very big gap there, and I have to be very mindful that I'm not putting a bridle on that's very big, thinking, well, he's got a big head. He's actually incredibly sensitive. So the Micklem, which is designed to fit, again, I'm going to show you this on a horse, a fit around these important points on the horse's head, can relieve pressure and help a horse feel really nice and soft. Sometimes that blocked feeling that you get can be coming from a badly fitted bridle. Behavioural problems, head shaking, diving down, leaning on the bit, you know, all of these sorts of problems, self-carriage, whatever it might be. they can be caused by a badly fitting bridle. So it is so important that we are thinking about this as importantly as we are thinking about how our saddle fits. I'm really serious on this, really important. So I'm now going to go and, with my crisps, show you Zora's bridle on Zora, so I can show you some important points about A, how to fit a bridle, but B, what we're aiming to avoid on the horse's head and why that is so important. So I am going to show you bridle fitting on more than one horse today. I want to show you with two separate bridles. So I'm going to show you with the brown bridle that I showed you before, that I'm looking at out of shot, on Tilly. So Tilly has got he's got a bit of a bigger head. He's got quite big spaces behind his ears. And so that is why he has got the Dion bridle that's the three, I don't know what I'm describing it, I can just show you. This bridle where he's got the three sections next to each other and the slightly wider headpiece. That works really well for him. He's got a giant head. He has bashed me with it a few times, and you certainly know how big it is when he does that. That's your bridle, yes. So I'm going to show you how I would fit a bridle on a horse. So you want to start with your horse and a head collar. This is quite a, I'm going quite basic to start with in case that is what you guys need. And then I'll be going into talking a bit more about kind of the important parts of the horse's head that we are looking to protect. So when I was talking about the gap behind his ears, you can see that Tilly kind of almost doesn't have one. He's got this very smooth shape, and he's got kind of medium-sized ears, I'd say, nothing too enormous. But it means that then if it works well for him to have a bridle that is thicker at this point. So to start with, what I would do, and it might be that you need another person to help you, I'd sort of line it up on his head. If I've never put a bridle on him before, this is how I would start. So I'm looking at the shape of his head to work out what kind of bridle, and then I'm looking at the size. That's about right. So I'm then going to, if I had reins, I would maybe put them over his neck, but I haven't got them. So put the bridle on. Now that I know that the size is approximately correct, fold one ear under another. Tilly, I really need you to be like not totally relaxed with your head on the floor. So, been keep repeatedly distracted, but so I've got this bridle now on Tilly. So you can see he has got a nice amount of room around his ears. This brow band is on the tighter side. You wouldn't want it any shorter than that, and you could have it slightly bigger. But you can see if the brow band was too tight, it would be in fact pulling the bridle forwards onto his ears like that. Whereas you can see it's got a nice amount of space, and it's all nice and kind of not loose, but just on his head, not pulled tight, not pressing, not pulling back, nothing like that. And I'll show you on Zora's bridle, slightly different. It's a bit looser, and you can see how, because she has got this very small gap between this bone, that the headpiece needs to be a bit narrower. So you can see on with the buckles, they are sat nice and flush on his face. They're not all folded over each other. They're nice and level, and they sit nice and kind of smoothly over this part of him. So horses have got lots of blood vessels, lots of nerves running down the side of their face, so it's really important that things aren't sort of bunched up tight up here or pushing too close to his eye, anything like that. When it comes to the noseband, you can see there's this nice 2-finger gap here between the noseband and the cheekbone, and that's important. Things like this pushing up, again, that starts pushing on nerves, blood vessels, that kind of thing. This is really important for a horse, that they feel that there is a comfort to their bridle. If the bridle is too tight or pushing, you can imagine that it's going to give you that blocked feeling in the rein. And sometimes we look at behavioural problems or head shaking or things like that, and actually that can be solved with a well-fitted bridle. So you can see the noseband is here. It is touching his face, but it's not super tight. It's not pulling tight on his nose. The noseband is used to stabilize the bridle. If you don't have the noseband, the whole thing can move a little bit, so it's a good thing to have a noseband as I said, to make the bridle nice and still on his head, but it shouldn't be there to tie the mouth shut or, you know, make it feel really tight and pressuring on his head. So you can see on his bit here, you can see if I push like that, you can see that we've got one wrinkle above his lip. This for me on this horse is perfect. Sometimes you want to have 2 wrinkles like that, but that would be more if you've maybe got a horse with a bigger lip and the bit still has to sit in the correct place in his mouth, and you end up with 2 wrinkles. What you don't want, if I let the cheek piece down a little bit, is that you can see that it's sort of then hanging in his mouth, like dangling around. You see his mouth is now moving, the whole bit is moving because it's now sitting in the wrong place in his mouth. If I put it back up again, he will hopefully show us where is then comfortable. If your horse is constantly moving its mouth like that, that isn't necessarily a good thing. So yeah, there we have how to correctly fit a snaffle bridle. So you've got level buckles, not pushing on his eye, not too high, not too low. You've got a brow band that's got a bit of space in it and a headpiece that isn't jammed up against his ears. The throat lash is also nicely fitted so that you've got enough space underneath his throat. The throat lash is only there so that if the bridle starts to come off, it's going to cause gentle resistance and stop the bridle just flying off over his head. So yeah, that is Tilly in his bridle, and I'm going to go and get Zora and I'm going to show you her bridle and how it is different and why it is different, and yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here we have Zora in the horsemanship saddlery bridle. So you can see she's got a bit of a different shape here, especially if I run my hand down there. She's got this bigger bone and it's a bit of a smaller gap in the poll. So that's why this bridle is really nice for her, because you can see it really sits right round the ear. It's a little bit more shaped than the other bridle. I do actually ride her also in one of those other bridles, but I much prefer this on her. I feel it fits better around the shape of her head. You're the best model ever, Zora. So, as you can see, this brow band is slightly bigger, and this is more how we want it to be. We want it to have this more of a shape to it. You can see it's really doing very little. The brow band is a bit for aesthetic purposes. It doesn't really serve a job other than, again, for a bit of security of the bridle, but it shouldn't be there doing too much. So you can see here, it's not pulling in any way, pulling the bridle forward at all. It's letting the bridle sit exactly where you want it to be. And you can see this bridle really puts itself in the right position on her head. Again, we've got the buckles. Now this is getting a bit on the higher side, but it's not up here. This is where we don't want to be pushing, right up on this bit that sticks out here. It is still sitting in that safe zone under that bone, nicely flat on the side of her head. So you can see with this one we haven't got a throat lash because, again, like I said, you don't actually necessarily need one. The noseband is sitting 2 fingers underneath the cheek piece, underneath the cheekbone, sorry, and again the noseband is there just doing a job. So again, you can see we've just got that one wrinkle next to her mouth, and this bit is a thinner bit. So again, it's making sure that that fit of the bit and the mouth is appropriate for each horse. Not every horse is going to look the same. If this was a thicker bit, it might be making a bit more of a wrinkle, but it would still be in the right place in her mouth. It's a case of playing around with it, moving it up and down a little bit, making sure it's level on both sides, not that one side is up here and one side is down here, making sure it's nice and balanced on their head. And as you can see, she's very comfortable wearing her bridle. If you're putting your horse's bridle on and they're pulling and dragging and chewing and maybe sticking their tongue out a huge amount, they're probably not very happy, and maybe you can look at doing something about it. You can see with both of these horses with 2 completely separate shaped heads, different shaped bridles, that you really get a horse that is very happy in its head. You can see she's quite comfortable wearing the bridle. The bridle isn't causing her any discomfort at standing and stationary, and that is really, really important to me. So I'm here in the tack room and I am going to show you some of the bits that I'm using at the moment, why I'm using them, and explain a little bit about it. So where should we start? So this is Obi's bridle. So you know I was talking about the Micklem with the narrow headpiece. he also has a double bridle that is very similar. So Lily's just giving it a clean now. But you see how the headpiece is also quite narrow here. It's not super wide. It's not one with a treble strap. And again, it's making, yeah, this is as close as I could get to the Micklem without it being the Micklem. And then you've got the two bits on here. I'm not going to talk too much about double bridles because that's a bit of something that I wouldn't feel totally confident about giving too much advice about, but I knew that I wanted a bridle as similar to his snaffle bridle for Obi because his snaffle bridle really works for him. So this is the snaffle bridle. You see it's the Micklem with this bit that goes up the side of his face that is very padded, and that is the same on the double bridle. Now, talking about bits now, so this is Obi's bit. This is a Hilary Vernon snaffle, and it's almost like a Bradoon, this snaffle. It's got a really small ring, so it kind of limits the amount of movement. The bigger the ring, the more the movement. And it's got this very shaped mouthpiece. Obi is actually very sensitive, and he doesn't want to be having something in his mouth that is too straight. He's got a big fleshy tongue and big fleshy lips, so this is why we have a bit that is shaped. So this is quite common for cobs. They have quite a lot of stuff in their mouth. They don't have they have a relatively small gap because they have a lot of flesh. Now this is his jumping bit, and you can see that it is a very similar shape. You've got the lozenge in the middle, so when you compare, let's see if I can hold the nosebands up together. When you compare the two, they are very, very similar. This has actually got a slightly different shaped lozenge in the middle, and I would say that he doesn't like this as much as he likes that, but it was hard to find one like this with a little bit more breaks. So this has got a little bit of pull action on it. Obi is a big guy and he can get really strong when I'm jumping, so it's a bit important for me. But again, you can see the bridle stays the same. He's got another Micklem, the same as his dressage bridle, his flat work bridle. So all of the pressure is staying off the sides of his face, but with a slightly different bit with a similar shaped mouthpiece. Now, this bit isn't currently on a horse at the moment, but this is a bit that I really like, and I have started a lot of horses in this bit. I really like this bit on a pony, so like a Welsh D or a Connemara. I've found that this has really, really been good. It's got a nice smooth shaped lozenge. It's a nice slightly curved snaffle, but not too curved, so it sits really nicely in their mouth. And it's got this full cheek side to it, which gives it a bit of stability. So you see with the loose ring, you don't get any stability. It's nice and loose and soft and moving. This is a little bit more structured. So when you've not got a huge amount of steering, or you want the bit to sit very still in the horse's mouth, this is the one that I like to go for. This is a like £30 Shire's bit. It's not expensive, but it really is a nice one that I like to get started. It's not too thin, it's not too thick. It's got this nice brass material, which they really like, helps them mouth up. So yeah, so that was one that I really, really like. I had an interesting situation with Robin. He hated this bit. When I say hated, I mean despised. He didn't like it at all. He was really open in his mouth, really like pulling against the rein. And so I had to think differently. I had to go outside the box. I had to make a different plan. So that is where I ended up with this snaffle. So this is actually another Shire's bit, and it's really shaped. So you see how small it is. It's only a 5-inch bit, so he's got a really little mouth. It's got a bit of security. They don't do it in a full cheek version. If they did, I would purchase that to help with the steering. But this Egbert gives that nice bit of stability without, it's not got the loose ring, so it's not sort of slipping around too much. And then this just sits really nicely in his mouth. He's got a little mouth, and so the curvature gives him a nice bit of stability, but also fits nicely in his mouth and on his tongue. And you'll see on some of my videos on my Instagram that sometimes you'll still see him opening his mouth and kind of working it out a little bit. So yeah, I really do like that snaffle, and that's relatively a new addition, but definitely a fun favourite now. So this is a good bit for a horse with a small amount of space in their mouth, maybe quite a small mouth, but that shaping is very nice. Just with one single joint like this, it can create like a really even pressure in the mouth without there being too much movement. So here you have 2 joints on the snaffle, and then here you just have one. So now we're going back to a new shawl bit now. So this is another bit that I really like. This is Zora's bit. So this is called a team up snaffle from New Shawl, not sponsored. You can see the ring is slightly bigger, so it gives a bit more movement than that first bit I showed you with Obi. Again, it's relatively similar actually to Obi's, maybe nicely shaped in the mouth. Quite a nice thin bit. This one comes in different widths and sizes, but this is quite a nice thin bit. So she's also got not a very big space in her mouth. And she really likes this one. I was actually trying this out myself, and then when I had Selena come and do a bitting consultancy for me, this was what we decided was the best. We tried a few different ones, and this was the one we liked the most. And I found that sort of a couple of warm bloods with, you know, sensitive mouths, this is really nice. It encourages them to take the rein forward because it's nice and thin. It's not thick and kind of like too big in the mouth. So yeah, I really like that. It's a really nice soft bit, and the young horses seem to really be liking that, Zora especially. So then we get on to Tilly, and this is a nice bit that I do like. So Tilly is incredibly strong and has a very big tongue, so this is a nice bit because it's oh no, whoops. So this is a nice bit as well. This is the duo, Sprenger duo, and you see it's super bendy. So Tilly really likes this. He can hold it in his mouth a little bit more, you know, keep it really consistent. There's hardly any movement to it. We've got the fixed sides as well. So there's only this movement, so you don't get this kind of slipping around, which Tilly really likes. He's very sensitive in his mouth. He doesn't like a lot of change, so he doesn't like for the contact to kind of jiggle around. He likes it to be really nice and secure. So this is a really nice bit for horses that you want to feel nice and still in the mouth, and you want them to feel really confident about holding the bit in their mouth. So those are my go-to bits. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Oh, there is one that I haven't got here actually, and it's the New Shawl turtle top. I'm not sponsored by New Shawl, kind of wish I was, because they're not the cheapest. Pet and Pony are my suppliers of all of my kind of riding gear and that kind of thing, so they are the people that I go to, and I've got a discount code for them, so if anyone sees a bit that they think they like, then they might be the person to find it for you. But the New Shawl turtle top, I haven't got a horse that I'm riding in one at the moment. I have actually Boots is going in one at the moment, but he's been off again, and anyway, but it's basically the same with the lozenge in the middle but with a flat part, and that is a bit that I also really like. I find the ones that have got a bit of a bigger tongue, the warm bloods that have got a bit of a bigger tongue, I really like the turtle top. It's nice and still and consistent in their mouth. So putting this bridle in the lorry because we are going out for some arena hire. If you'd like to see some clips of the arena hire, it'll be over on Instagram. I want to concentrate. I've got to do some test riding because we're going to a show. So next week's video will be a show vlog. So I think that is all that I've got to say about bridles and bits and fitting them and why. I think the thing that you've got to ask is your horse telling you something about its bridle that you could do better? And if the answer is yes, then do something about it. Do some Googling, have a look at the horsemanship website. I really like those bridles, and they explain a lot about, you know, the nerves on the face, the blood vessels on the face that are so important to be avoiding. And I think that's the best we can do, right? We can just start learning about it, and I think that's what I hope to encourage people to do on my YouTube channel, is just to start learning a bit more. I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys for next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.